practice number 1 of the book, so fall camp. Just give us briefly where the offense and defense overall, and we'll open up for questions.
I think offensively, you just got a lot of competition across the board. Everyone is going to want to know and talk about the quarterback position battle, but there's a lot of position battles going at multiple position groups, at receiver, at O-line, right? I mean, everywhere. The word of the year for this team that Coach Chowell selected was earn, and we've really tried to drive that point home with the guys in terms of earning your spot and earning your role. And so the depth chart's going to be very fluid and change from practice to practice, who's going with the ones, who's going with the twos, certainly with the quarterbacks, but at other position groups too. So I think there's a lot of excitement with that because maybe last year's team, you're a little bit more solidified. You kind of knew what some of the rooms are going to look like. Now you're kind of brand new, and so I think there's a lot of hope. But I think the biggest thing that you want to drive to your team is that connection and commitment to each other that we have right now. That can't fall by the wayside when you don't get the position that you want. So I think there's a lot of excitement. People are ready to compete and fight for jobs, and we're pumped up to be back out there with the guys.
Defensively, I think they had a really good first day. I was really pleased with the mindset and approach that they took to it. The biggest challenge to our group is consistency, and we talked about it in the first meeting. Coach Chadwell's spoken about it numerous times. Joe just spoke about it. We have to play it the same way no matter what the scoreboard is, no matter where we are in the game, and that's the big challenge to them. So we had a great day one. Like, it only means something on day one. Now, it's day two. We have to turn the page, and we have to be great today with our mindset, with our approach, and all those things.
Kyle, when you look at the defense from last year, there were some numbers that were actually better than 23, right? I mean, a little bit better scoring defense, a little bit better overall. But what are some of the glaring stats that you look at and say, we have to be better here?
Well, I mean, the first year we were here, we had a ton of turnovers. Last year, we kind of went the other way. And some of that's luck, some of it you create. That's one of the things that we have to make sure that we get the ball back. So our offense is dangerous, and if we can get the ball to them as many times as possible, that's the goal. So we met with all of our defensive players one-on-one in the summer, and we asked them, we need one personal goal, one defensive goal, and the majority of them said we want to lead the conference, lead the country in turnovers. So that's a big point of emphasis for us to get the ball back. Again, the game's all about the ball.
How much does the pressure on the quarterback coincide with that? The sack numbers were down last year. Is that something that you hope to improve upon this year?
Yeah, I mean, we would love to get more sacks. I think the biggest thing for us, sacks are a statistic that's important, but, there's other statistics with the quarterback where you make him reset his feet, where you make him double clutch the ball. We really want to confuse, harass, and hit the quarterback. So whether that ends up in sacks or not, if at the end of the game that quarterback's going to the locker room saying, man, I've had enough, we've done our job.
Coach Chadwell was talking yesterday about he feels like this is the deepest the defense has been in his time here. Do you feel like you're at that point, or hopefully could get to that point by the end of the camp?
Yeah, and we have a bunch of guys that have a ton of talent. Now they got to work to make sure that they're learning the scheme and learning what to do and how to do it, and then doing it with elite effort. And then again, go back to that word, consistently. Right? They have to do it all the time. It's not just a one-day thing. For the depth to be real, there's got to be no drop off from 1 to 2 to 3 or however many we have. But yes, we have a talented group at a bunch of different positions, and now we just got to put it all together. And Joe spoke to the connection part and do it for one another. I mean, that's Coach Chadwell said it in the first meeting, right? Effort is how you show someone you love them. So we got to play hard for one another every day.
With the quarterback competition, Coach Chadwell mentioned yesterday he wants to have it kind of narrowed down to 3 by the 9th practice of scrimmage, and then have a guy chosen by that last week of practice. This early on in camp, I'm sure you had a chance to get them in a bunch of things in spring ball, but how well are they absorbing things here at the first week, and getting kind of everybody else to speed, because that is the quarterback's job on offense. So what are they doing in regards to leadership?
Well, now there's so many. Everyone has those 15 spring practices, but then you get so many OTAs during the summer. So really, you can be a lot more aggressive with your install now as opposed to maybe a few years ago, and you feel like. That first practice, you feel like you've done that first practice script with those guys like 6 times. And the same thing could be said for the defense. So I think there's I think they're prepared coming into fall camp and the rest of our offense as well. Like we tracked all of the missed assignments and penalties and all those types of things that kill drives during those summer OTAs. And there's a few at the beginning, but the second half, the most of the month of July, there's hardly any missed assignments, no procedure or false starts or anything like that. So I think you're coming into fall camp feeling pretty confident as a coaching staff as far as where their understanding is of the offense. You always try to add a few wrinkles to it every single offseason, which we've done, but there isn't a lot of those guys. All 5 of those guys can come into the position meeting room and really install it without me having really to teach much of them. And we ask that from them, and we expect that. That's kind of the expectation when they come into that meeting room, that they teach it to they could teach it to someone that just joined the program tomorrow. So they're at that point. It's really kind of back to the 2023 season in terms of what fall camp looks like. You're trying to manage the reps as best you can amongst all of them. So the goal is, like Coach Shelby probably already mentioned, through those first 9 practices to have those reps as even as we can, and then cut it down to maybe 2 or potentially 3 guys for that last week, and then make a decision. I think practice number 17 is our first main practice, so have a guy named by that point.
We talked last year about play calling and getting the ball to the playmakers as much as possible. Cooley, for example, but there were others at other times. When you look at it this year, the running back room and so many different guys in there now that maybe haven't proven it yet, but there's talent there. Does that make your job harder or more easier as a play caller when you're trying to figure out how to distribute? Like, I want to run this play with this guy, or at this point, does that make your job more difficult or less difficult?
Just having unproven guys?
Exactly. Having some unproven guys and maybe just trying to figure out the hot hand or who you want to delegate the touches to.
Well, I think it is a challenge, but that's kind of the exciting part, because each team has its own kind of flavor in terms of what we're really good at. I mean, at the core principles of the offense are always going to kind of be the same, but the things that Julian Gray and Von Blue are really good at are going to potentially be different than what Quentin Cooley and Billy Lucas were really good at, and so you have to tailor it to what their strengths are, what they're good at. You have to tailor it to what the quarterback is good at, what is your O-line good at. So to me, that's kind of the exciting and fun part of fall camp, of putting the piece of the puzzle together and figuring that out, what you want to hang your hat on. But like I said, it's exciting and different because you're constantly kind of changing the depth chart to really every single practice. That's our goal, at least for the first 9 for sure, to try and find, all right, what is that best combination of 11. And there's going to be a starting 11, but we're so multiple with our personnel groupings. There's going to be multiple personnel groupings, like per your point, not just the running back room. If you look at the receiver room, there's some really good talent there, but each person has kind of his own strength. So sometimes you have to maybe carry more personnel packages than you would in previous years. And it's not just the same 11 guys. So I don't know. For me, that's the kind of exciting and fun part of fall camp every year, finding out what you're good at and what individually those players are good at.
Willie, Jamie mentioned yesterday about the timeline for quarterbacks, and ideally you got 5 now, but you start whittling that down to 3 and then 2 and then 1 in terms of your starter. How do you handle that with the rest of the offensive positions? And Kyle, you can chime in defensively as well about that, in terms of other positions. It may not be one guy gets the majority of the reps, and so you might be spreading it around based upon game plans, looks, and who's playing well at a given time with that.
As far as narrowing down who's your stars at other positions?
Correct.
I think quarterback's just different. I think with the other position groups, you have to be a receiver. You need to have 6 to 7 guys you feel like you can go out there and win with, because injuries are going to happen everywhere, so you got to be prepared for it. Same thing at running back. With us being a 2-back offense, we'll get to the point where when we play the first snap of offense against Maine, you'll have your 2 starters, but we use those guys so much, you're going to play 4 guys. So I think it's a little bit different at those position groups. You won't get to that point after the 9th practice as far as maybe shutting down certain guys' reps like you maybe would with quarterbacks. I think those will continue to go because you got to continue to develop guys, because the starting offense and starting defense you have against Maine is not probably going to look the same when you get to the middle of October. You're going to have guys get banged up and all that stuff, so you got to continue to develop and really try to play into the fact that everybody has a role in this team and you want them to take pride in it. And when you have that, you'll have that connected locker room that we have right now. You don't want to lose that when, okay, I'm not the starter. I want to be the starter, but now I'm the backup. I still want to have a connected and committed football team. And I think we have that, but time will tell in terms of once we start kind of settling in on some decisions on the depth chart.
And defensively, is it kind of the same, particularly defensive line, where they're bigger bodies and you kind of have to rotate guys in if you want to have the most success?
Yeah, I mean, you think about a lot of games come down to the fourth quarter, so you want to have your best pass rushers and your best defensive linemen available then in those moments. Our challenge to our group, again, Coach kind of just said it, like, you're going to have a role in this team. Now, they define their role by how they practice, how reliable they are, how hard they compete, how hard they compete in the meeting rooms to know what to do and know how to do it, and then have the discipline to do it over and over again correctly. We play, like Quentin Reese is a great example. When Quentin Reese was here, he played safety, he played outside linebacker, he played middle linebacker. We moved him all over the place. So if you're good enough to play, we're going to find a place to play, and it may be a little bit unique, each week or to the player, but we're going to find a way to get our best 11 players on the field, and then, hopefully develop enough competitive depth that we can have no drop off. If one person goes down, all of a sudden we can't do it anymore. We don't want to be in that position. But I think the biggest thing we want to see our guys do is every day at fall camp is compete and continue to be reliable, compete to be, know what to do and know how to do it, and then do it correctly over and over again.